Please welcome Taylor Swift.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Brits global icon, Taylor Swift.
Artist of the Decade Award to Taylor Swift.
I sing to the haters.
Well, when they stop coming for me, I will stop singing to them.
I had that praise of, Taylor, you're doing a good job at your work.
Accused Swift and her team of going so far out of their way to try and make me look bad. She just has time on her hands and because she needs somebody new to try and bury like Katy.
Deciding that my songwriting was like a trick rather than a skill and a craft.
And the Grammy goes to Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift isn't just a pop star, she's a phenomenon, a brand, a mirror. For nearly 2 decades, we've watched her grow up in real time, narrating her life through lyrics, relationships, feuds, reinventions, and record-breaking eras. Most artists come and go, but Taylor doesn't just survive the industry, she studies it, adapts to it, and arguably bends it to her will. And that's what makes her so fascinating. Because when you look closely, Taylor Swift's success isn't just about talent or timing, it's about psychology. The way she forms attachments, the way she handles criticism, the way she builds loyalty, controls narrative, competes with peers, and constantly reinvents herself to stay culturally dominant. Every move feels intentional, every era carefully constructed, and every relationship, romantic or professional, becomes part of a much bigger story. Now, quick disclaimer before we dive in, I am not Taylor Swift's therapist, psychologist, or doctor. This video is not a diagnosis and it is not presented as fact. This is a psychological analysis for fun based on public behavior, interviews, lyrics, and long-running patterns. The same material fans and critics have been dissecting for years. So this isn't about tearing her down, it's about understanding why someone with everything still wants more, how fear of fading can coexist with massive success, and what it really takes psychologically to remain on top in an industry designed to replace you. Because if Taylor Swift has taught us anything, it's that nothing about her career is accidental. And so, baby, let the games begin. Success-oriented childhood. From a young age, Taylor Swift wasn't just encouraged to succeed, success was the family blueprint. Her father, a financial advisor, and her mother, a former marketing executive, treated her career almost like a startup project. In Miss Americana, Taylor reveals how deeply her self-worth was tied to approval. She says, "My entire moral code is a need to be thought of as good." Psychologists refer to this as conditional self-regard, where love and acceptance are subtly linked to achievement. When you grow up that way, you don't just want to make your parents proud, you need to. We recently uploaded a video about Taylor's parents' involvement in her career and how they were at the start of every achievement that one would think came naturally, but was rather orchestrated by her parents. In that video, we talk about how Taylor's dad was behind the majority of the connections Taylor had in her earlier career, and how success didn't come to Taylor as naturally as her team wanted you to think. Even down to choosing the name Taylor, her parents opted for an androgynous name so that she wouldn't be stereotyped at a workplace. When you have a success-oriented childhood, there are a couple of themes you'll often see play out. A. Conditional regard and achievement identity. In families where success is assumed, not hoped for, a child often internalizes conditional self-worth, such as, "I'm loved when I succeed." Even if Taylor's parents never explicitly said this, the environment of having high-achieving parents, early investment in her career, and constant validation through progress can make success feel like a form of emotional currency. This can create a deep internal pressure where the child feels that failure equals loss of identity or love. In Taylor's case, she has spoken about being a people pleaser and wanting to be the good girl. These are often expressions of approval-seeking behavior learned early on from environments where validation and achievement were intertwined. In her Miss Americana documentary, she says, "My whole moral code as a kid and now is a need to be thought of as good." That's textbook conditional approval conditioning. She derived worth through being good and successful, especially in the public eye. This is where she cares most about being seen as good.
Know then that soon enough people would decide on something else I wasn't quite doing right, and then the circle would keep going on and rolling along, and I would keep accommodating. overcorrecting in an effort to appease my critics.
This is why Taylor can never wrap her head around any criticism she gets, because to her, criticism is a form of loss or a form of hate. If she's doing everything right, you aren't allowed to criticize her. Taylor cares too much about what the average person thinks of her, even though she is not the average person. If you take a look at her 2019 Women in Music Billboard Awards speech, she is being rewarded and is somehow still on stage talking about how people's criticisms of her have made her change her music, who she dates, who she hangs out with, and how often you'll see her.
They're saying I'm dating too much in my 20s. Okay, I'll stop. I'll just be single for years. Now they're saying my album Red is filled with too many breakup songs. Okay, I'll make one about moving to New York and deciding that really my life is more fun with just my friends.
Another theme from a success-oriented childhood is B, parental enmeshment and secure dependence. Taylor's close relationship with her parents can also indicate emotional enmeshment, when family bonds are so tight that individual identity formation gets intertwined with parental validation. Psychologically, this creates both support and pressure. Support being it provides safety, stability, and emotional grounding. Pressure being it makes being an individual harder. Taylor can't form opinions without her parents' help and feedback. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but since the start of Taylor's career, she's leaned on her parents' guidance to decide what she should do. When you're younger, it's encouraged that your parents help you step by step. But when you're 36 and you still have your parents navigating your career and mindset, it starts to backfire a bit. Thanks to Taylor's 6-part series about the Eras Tour, we find out that her mom is the one who pushed the idea of Taylor giving Travis a shot. Her mom is the one that also said, let's make it the end of an era rather than the end of a decade. They are clearly more involved than we would have thought. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we do talk about this in the Taylor's Parents video, where we do say that every little thing Taylor does is micromanaged by her parents. In Taylor's life, her parents are heavily involved in her management decisions and image. Her mother, Andrea, is particularly center. Fans often see her backstage, on tour, and in award shows. This closeness may reflect both a secure attachment and difficulty detaching from parental validation. In the Shady Parents video we did about Taylor, we talk a bit about her parents' involvement in her career and the way the entire Swift family operates solely for Taylor's success. This is a big reason why she has this immense pressure to keep getting validation from her family. Even her brother, who I questioned if he felt ignored growing up, works for Taylor's management. It's so strange that even Taylor in the year 2025, at the big age of 35, who is preparing to get married, isn't telling her mother what her song Would means. Mind you, the meaning of Taylor's new song Would on her latest Showgirl album is pretty obvious, yet Taylor laughs and says that these meanings all go over her mom's head, and that her mom thinks that the song is solely about superstition. Twitter had a blast reacting to the way Taylor set her mom up to seem as if she's a 67-year-old woman stuck in the body of a 14-year-old girl. Taylor's parents hovering around Taylor's developmental years is probably why she still subconsciously acts like a teenager. She uses her engagement photos as an excuse to write captions that feel like high school diary entries. She once treated showing her belly button like revealing the inside of Area 51. She still writes songs about high school crushes and awkward adolescent moments, almost as if she doesn't know if she's going to be graded on her behavior once the curtains come down. Even at her grown-up age, she maintains that carefully curated teen persona, keeping her connection with a younger audience alive. This could be a business strategy because everyone knows there's a lot of money and success when you cater to a younger audience. But it also raises questions about maturity, both hers and her fans, when approaching certain topics. For example, many listeners were upset by Would because it addressed a partner of hers more explicitly than her usual lyrics. Similarly, whenever Taylor swears in a song, it often comes across as performative and unnatural, like she's winking at the audience going, "Ooh, look at me saying the word bitch. Now I'm gonna say it a few more times for no reason." I feel like her personality, which was shielded for the most part, does stem from how close she is to her family. Again, it's not a bad thing for Taylor to have a close relationship with her family, but there should be a limit to how much control and influence they have on her. This brings us to C, the gifted child phenomenon. Alice Miller's concept of the drama of a gifted child is key when talking about success-oriented childhoods. It describes children who, being perceived as talented, sense their parents' unspoken desires and align their behavior to fulfill them, often at the cost of authentic self-expression. This means that Taylor will reshape how she behaves, what music she puts out, and what Hollywood image she has based on her parents' expectations of her. Not only will she give them what they're expecting, but she'll also match the work ethic that they need her to do. Taylor was writing songs at 12, networking in Nashville at 13, and signed by 14. This is the behavior of someone who not only had drive, but an internalized mission to make it happen because success was the family story. This can lead to a hyper-developed performance identity and a private emotional suppression. You show the world your best and hide the parts that might disappoint. It's why people question if Taylor's love story in the public eye have ever been real. It's also why people question if Travis and Taylor are a real couple. Taylor has always tried to give society something to talk about, and it's why there's a huge portion of the internet who believes that Taylor and Travis are both in agreement with how to navigate their relationship for public gain. Check out the video we have on them if you want to know more. People don't see an authentic side of Taylor, and when she has something real, it's hard to believe it somehow doesn't work for Taylor, the big machine showgirl. Taylor herself said in Miss Americana that she's always wanted to please those around her, and so she did the best she could, and anything that was even remotely controversial, she kept hidden. Because of this, it's believed that Taylor has a whole private life behind closed doors that fans don't have much knowledge about. In the past, we have written blog posts from what sources have said about Taylor's private life. Taylor is arguably the best in Hollywood right now at putting on a full-scale, high-production concert. Few of her peers can even come close to matching what she's accomplished on the Eras Tour. Many artists from her era have even stepped back, yet after hitting peak after peak in her career, she shows up relentlessly, working harder than ever. The result? Massive acclaim and the unchallenged title of the biggest current pop star. This trickles down to core things about Taylor, such as D. Control, perfectionism, and image management. Children raised in high-performance environments often developed internalized control mechanisms, perfectionism, over-preparation, and emotional regulation to maintain approval and predictability. Taylor has spoken repeatedly about her obsession with being nice and never being seen as the villain, and her detailed control over her career, tours, and public narrative. That's a psychological compensation for the unpredictability of fame and the fear of losing approval, both parental and public. Taylor is terrified at losing her #1 spot, which we will talk about later. She's so terrified of anything going wrong. She once said that she was always living in fear of people turning on her. She told Vogue in 2012, "This is what I've wanted to do my whole life. It never freaks me out. Never ever. But you know what does freak me out? When is the other shoe going to drop? I am so happy right now, so I'm always living in fear. This can't be real, right? This can't really be my life." This all trickles down to Taylor's deep fear of fading in Hollywood. Taylor's fear of fading and being a Hollywood-dominant force. In a career measured by eras, chart records, and sold-out stadiums, one persistent undercurrent runs through Taylor Swift's public life, a palpable fear of fading. Even at the height of her success, she has described a dark fear, the worry that her happiness and comfort could dry up her creative well.
I used to kind of have this dark fear that if I ever were truly, happy and free being myself and nurtured by a relationship, what happens if the writing just dries up? What if writing is directly tied to my torment and pain?
It didn't help that Taylor's happiest album, aka Showgirl, was not well perceived by diehard fans who criticized her effort and called it lazy. That had to strike fear in Taylor, who swore the criticism didn't bother her, and yet was having tweets deleted that claimed that she copied other artists' work.
Rule of show business is if it's the first week of my album release and you are saying either my name or my album title, you're helping.
Taylor's fear of fading is so well known that when being on the Stephen Colbert Show, she said,
There are also corners that are like, give someone else a turn. Can't you just go away so we can talk about how good you were? And I'm like, I don't want to, you know?
Psychologists would call this a concern about legacy and continuity, the anxiety that one's narrative and power will end before they're ready for it to end. This fear pushes some artists to continuously produce, reinvent, and perform, not merely for acclaim, but to starve off being forgotten. Taylor does not want to live her life thinking of the good old days, she wants the good old days to exceed their limit. This is when reinvention becomes a survival strategy. Making music frequently, new albums, new sounds, new eras, functions as an active identity maintenance. In psychological terms, this is identity work, a prolonged public effort to define who you are now, who you were, and who you'll become. The payoff is visibility, relevance, power, and credit. The cost can be exhaustion, questions of burnout, and a rising greed that can be seen in Taylor. Taylor has repeatedly moved between musical eras, releasing albums and re-releasing across her career. Commentators have tied this to both artistic evolution and maintaining cultural presence. There's also a capitalistic greed shadowing anything Taylor does because it's fueled by her relentless drive to break records and stay at the top. Over the years, she's released an unusually high number of album variants, alternative covers, bonus tracks, exclusive vinyl colors, and limited editions. often timed strategically during chart battles. While these practices are common in the music industry, Taylor's scale is notable, effectively encouraging her fanbase to purchase the same album multiple times in order to help her break records or secure a #1 debut. This reflects a relentless drive for dominance that prioritizes records and metrics over restraint, reinforcing the idea that for Taylor, success is not just about winning once, it's about winning every time. And with Taylor winning every time, this also relates to her blocking other Hollywood peers at their chance of hitting #1. Taylor released new variants of the Tortured Poets department in the UK at strategic points during its chart run, including the same week Charlie's XCX Brat was poised to debut at #1. By doing so, it prevented Charlie's album from going #1 as it was predicted to. Her continuation of releasing variants kept Billie Eilish and Chappell Rowan's albums charting directly behind her, which garnered alleged shade from Billie Eilish.
I'm not doing a 3-hour show. That's literally psychotic. Nobody wants that. You guys don't want that. I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even want that as a fan. My favorite artist in the world. I'm not trying to hear them for 3 hours.
Billie also low-key defended Taylor by saying that Billboard should put more limits to how many variants an artist can release, because if there are no limits, then of course someone would want to play the #1 game. We've talked about Taylor's business strategies with her latest Showgirl album in a video before, so go check that out. Point of the story is, Taylor is so good at financially benefiting off of her fans that she even made a joke saying that she and her team would have invested money in the friendship beads that the fans popularized on the Eras tour had they known how popular it would be.
Well, the whole friendship bracelet thing was pretty beautiful too, where people would make friendship bracelets. And it was kind of this sweet thing that the fans did on their own. We didn't like market this. This wasn't like a thing that we did, or else I would have invested in beads.
This can cause some issues between Taylor and her other peers, as we've seen this play out before. For high-achieving people like Taylor, who built self-worth around visible success, perceived threats like someone outdoing you can trigger defensive, sometimes aggressive behavior, even when you're still on top. When younger stars started breaking records Taylor once held, the public framed it as a generational passing of the torch, and sometimes as rivalry. Olivia Rodrigo's rapid ascent and her chart success prompted comparisons to Taylor's early milestones, while fans and the press dissected whether admiration, rivalry, or a mix of both lay between the two artists. We have a video detailing the betrayal between Olivia and Taylor, including how Olivia responded to Taylor, who basically broke her heart. Taylor's identity is tightly interwoven with achievement, so Olivia's rapid rise felt like an existential nudge, making Taylor question, am I being replaced? I don't want to be replaced.
I don't want to.
Her defensive responses including doubling down, more work, tighter image control, and challenging rivals publicly or artistically. We already know that Taylor decided to take credit for Olivia's song Deja Vu, taking 50% of royalties and nudging Paramore to do the same with Good For You. You can read about what happened in detail on our blog Scandalous Media. Taylor has then challenged Olivia in both professional and social settings. After rumors of tension began circling online, Olivia released several songs that fans and commentators have interpreted as reflecting feelings of betrayal and disillusionment. The Grudge details how Olivia still has nightmares about how Taylor handled her, calling her insecure and unhappy, as she is someone who has everything and still wants more. Similarly, Vampire, while widely understood on the surface as a song about a past romantic partner, has also been interpreted by some fans as metaphorical. Olivia calls Taylor out as a bloodsucker fame fucker, and how she sold her for parts as she sank her teeth into her. The imagery of a bloodsucker who profits from another person's vulnerability has led to speculation that the song may describe a dynamic where fame, power, and extraction play central roles. However, Olivia has not confirmed that either song is about Taylor, but what comes next proves that Taylor challenges those she's bothered by in a game of dominance. When Olivia Rodrigo released Driver's License in early 2021, the song became a cultural phenomenon almost overnight. While the lyrics never named names, fans quickly connected the narrative to a real-life teenage love triangle involving actor Joshua Bassett and fellow Disney star Sabrina Carpenter. At the time, Taylor was publicly supportive of Olivia, praising Driver's License and welcoming Olivia as a kind of spiritual successor, a young songwriter drawing from the same emotional lineage. Swifties were ready to claim Olivia as their second mother, and it seemed that what was once Taylor's kingdom is about to come Olivia's. But as tensions between Olivia and Taylor later emerged in public, attention shifted to Taylor's interactions with Sabrina Carpenter. Taylor had been offering visible support to Sabrina, inviting her to open for portions of the Eras tour and speaking positively about her work. To observers, this shift in support felt personal. Social psychologists note that in high-status hierarchies, choosing who to elevate and when can intentionally signal preference, loyalty, or distance. For someone like Taylor Swift, whose career has been shaped by narrative control, any public endorsement carries weight. Taylor herself knows that, and it's how she sends signals to other competitors. To Olivia, it was, "Just like I welcomed you in, I can ice you out, and I could do it with the same person that the media is pitting against you." It's not like Taylor just posed with Sabrina at an award show or spoke highly of her randomly, but it was almost as if she tried to maneuver her success in hopes that she rises to Olivia's level. This was before Sabrina released Espresso, and while the attention from Driver's License put her on the map, it didn't garner her the same success as it garnered Olivia. So when Taylor zeroed in all her public attention on Sabrina, that relationship felt personal. Another way Taylor has shown dominance over Olivia is by standing and cheering for her as she sings a song that is highly rumored to be about Taylor. On the surface, the gesture appeared supportive, and media coverage framed it that way, with headlines suggesting Taylor was publicly backing Olivia and dispelling rumors of tension. However, to some observers, the moment carried additional subtext. To me, it looks like Taylor was purposefully drawing attention to herself and hoping that the spotlight would intimidate Olivia, since they are the only two standing at this moment. From a psychological perspective, this can be understood through the lens of status signaling. In this context, Taylor's visible enthusiasm placed her back into the conversation in a positive light, which disarms the argument that the song's about Taylor. It also invalidates any of Olivia's possible shade, letting Taylor get the last laugh.
What is going on there in that subtle event? Is she blowing her a kiss saying, "Hey, thanks Taylor, thanks for standing up and supporting me. And I don't think you took the focus off of me or anything. I don't have any bad blood about that." Or is she saying, "Hey, you know what this song is about, kiss, kiss." So kind of some passive aggressiveness there.
Taylor taking Sabrina Carpenter under her wing doesn't automatically mean Sabrina is safe either. Some fans have already pointed out similarities between Sabrina's increasingly showgirl-coded aesthetic and Taylor's own recent stage imagery with The Life of a Showgirl, where it seems like Taylor is putting on a Sabrina costume. This makes me question if there's going to be tension in the future between these two.
You can see they're not walking together, and even the stance that they have as they're moving is not really in step of two friends. I would also point out Taylor Swift's colossal heels here. The polite thing to do is to bring yourself down to the level of your shorter friend, or at least that's what I'd be doing. I'd be wearing flats.
Some people have already pointed out that Taylor's body language towards Sabrina has sent signals to Sabrina to remind her to stay in her lane. One example is when Taylor pats Sabrina on the head, laughing at their height difference during an award show. Someone on TikTok with the user Mr. Jones has said that this is Taylor's way of going after a person's insecurities or weaknesses.
Sabrina Carpenter, she pats her on the head in front of the awards, and Sabrina's a short person, so again, this is a narcissist covert tendency to try to go after what they think is their weakness.
This TikToker also said that Taylor did a similar gesture to Celine Dion when she ignored her as she took the award from her.
The case of Celine Dion, this is someone that is at legendary status. They're senior, they're at the end of their career. This is the kind of person that needs to be honored and needs to feel honored. And Taylor did the exact opposite. In the awards ceremony, she didn't even look at her as she was taken.
And how she dragged Lana Del Rey to come and stand next to her as she won a Grammy, knowing that the Grammys have dubbed Lana's work before.
The classic connection between what could possibly hurt the person the most. And the last one was Lana Del Rey, where she drags Lana Del Rey on stage and, against her will, and indirectly spotlight the fact that she didn't win, that Taylor won. So anyway, it's one of the interesting things about narcissists, particularly clever narcissists, and there's no doubt that Taylor Swift is clever, but cleverly finding ways to hit her rivals.
I think she's a legacy artist, a legend in her prime right now. I'm so lucky to know you and to be your friend.
Taylor can stand there and praise Lana as a legend because she's the one holding the Grammy at the end of the day, while Lana looks at her and gives a sad smile. What's funny about Taylor and Lana's friendship is that for years, Taylor has been accused of borrowing heavily from Lana's aesthetic and musical style early in her career. You can imagine how that must feel for Lana. Being friends with a powerhouse like Taylor means it's hard to express frustration without the narrative somehow flipping back on you. So instead, you offer a polite, sad smile while Taylor pulls you up at the Grammy stage, takes home another award, and continues building a legacy that, in part, you helped inspire. Another moment social media caught between Taylor and Lana was at the Grammys backstage, where Taylor brings attention to Lana by trying to fix her hair and saying, "It's fixable," even though Lana's hair looked fine.
Where's Lana?
Let's go.
Okay, no. This will be fine. This is fixable.
Some people argued that Taylor did this in front of cameras and a large group of people in a calculated effort to chip at Lana's self-esteem by making her stand there while Taylor fixed her hair. As Taylor says, "Now follow me," and is brushing off Lana's dress, you can see Lana uncomfortably let out a chuckle.
Alright, follow me. This will be fine.
Now to some, and some being Taylor, this could be seen as crown fixing, but crown fixing is something you do in private. You don't have someone stand in front of a bunch of cameras and a bunch of people and make them think something's off about their appearance. Another person mentioned that Taylor is the type of person who always needs to bring the attention back to her, even if it has nothing to do with her. Whether that's being the only person in the crowd standing during a performance, or by shifting the focus on her when someone near her is getting credit.
You know, it brings up the same question of why is she up there doing that? Is it really to support the artist, or is it to draw attention to herself, similar to how that happened?
Taylor has done this to her longtime friend, or should I say ex-friend, and producer Jack Antonoff. Both times he has gotten credit for his work, there's Taylor right beside him, goofing around, putting bunny ears behind his head, or playfully smacking his back. It's probably in all good fun, but with Taylor, it's hard to tell where her harmless humor ends and her drive for social control begins. She has so many examples of reclaiming the spotlight in subtle ways that you can never be entirely sure if it's innocent mischief or a carefully orchestrated nudge towards the center stage. Another example brought up of Taylor trying to redirect attention back to herself was when she was at the Grammys trying to insert herself in a conversation that Sabrina and Margaret Qualley were trying to have. It's hilarious because as she's talking, not one person is looking at her. She's trying to make a joke that Sabrina won 1.5 Grammys because one of the songs was for a collab.
She got 1 and she got remixed. 1.5.
Some people think this was Taylor's way of shading Sabrina's Grammy win. While this may be true, I also think that Taylor is someone who oftentimes makes unfunny jokes because she's not that relatable, and so when it's time to make a joke, it falls at the expense of someone else. People theorize that this is not the first time Taylor has subtly shaded Sabrina.
Last time they performed together, people were making fun of the height difference. And so now they're hanging out and these are the shoes that Taylor wears.
In her 6-part series documenting the journey of her Eras tour, she calls up Sabrina on her one day off and makes a joke about her being a child, asking if it was wrong to make a child work on their day off. Mind you, Sabrina is 26 years old. If anyone had joked about Taylor being a child at 26, you would have woken up to a few tweets calling for your cancellation. She also made sure to note that it was after Sabrina opened up for the Eras tour is when her career massively took off. Now, all of these things could be reading too much into Taylor's every word, but this is the same person who knows how intentional she is when she's talking. This is the same person who said you'd be surprised the length she'd go to prove a point, and this is the same person who called herself a mastermind. So do with that as you will. Back to the Grammys video, what's interesting about this interaction is that nobody is doing anything wrong, yet Taylor still looks uncomfortable because of the fact that her jokes and presence are being slightly ignored. Everyone is coming up to Sabrina, congratulating her, and Taylor looks like she's having a hard time with someone else that's not her getting attention for the moment. So this is where we question if Taylor Swift is a covert narcissist. A covert narcissist is a pretty common type of person because we all exhibit some sort of narcissistic traits over the course of our lives. It's actually pretty common to spot someone acting like a covert narcissist because they crave admiration, feel entitled, and are highly sensitive to criticism. But they express it in subtle, indirect ways, unlike the loud, grandiose, overt narcissist. This is an analysis type video, not a medical report, so do take this with a grain of salt, but Taylor, from the outside perspective, is someone who has traits of a covert narcissist. She has self-importance, sensitivity to criticism, passive and emotional manipulation, and an underlying theme of envy or comparison. If you take a look at this clip, Louis Capaldi is almost shading Taylor, saying that he was told he wasn't allowed to talk about his upcoming album during this interview, and look at how she jumps in to say, by who?
But it's from an upcoming EP.
Yeah, I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about it.
Oh.
What? By who?
What am I?
Almost challenging the fact that he's speaking out. She then overcompensates for the possible rule her team had put towards Lewis by saying, "That's fantastic."
Yeah, it's coming out. The EP is coming out. I'll just tell you, it's called Survive, and it's coming out later in the year.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much.
When you take a look at Taylor's self-importance, you can tell she views herself and her work with the highest level of respect and admiration. This is key to her success. While it's not a bad thing to have self-importance, too much self-importance can sometimes be tricky to navigate because you suffocate the people around you by constantly redirecting attention back to yourself. Hence Taylor always standing obnoxiously in a crowd to cheer someone on. Taylor would never make a joke that she won a Grammy and a half because to her that's disrespectful to her work, but yet when it's time to make a joke about someone else, suddenly it's funny. Taylor's sensitivity to criticism is one of the highlighted things about her personality. She has steamrolled feuds based off of her sensitivity alone to anything she deems as disrespectful or betrayal. I'm not even exaggerating. When Taylor's tunnel vision comes to effect, she will read the room wrong and be loud about it as well. Back in 2014, Taylor called Katy Perry her enemy over a situation that involved backup dancers. The story is literally from Katy Perry's own mouth, it's not even a rumored thing. Katy's backup dancers were going on tour with Taylor and had asked Katy if it was okay. Katy told them it was and that she wasn't going to do anything for about a year, but once that year's over, she'll ask them if they want to come back and the choice was up to them. When the time was right, the dancers decided they wanted to go back to working with Katy. When they told management about this, they got fired. And Taylor deemed Katy as someone trying to sabotage her and an entire arena tour. This tour was the 1989 tour. When Katy tried to talk to Taylor about it, considering they were good friends, Taylor shut her out and decided to recruit all of her A-list friends to get together and bully Katy in the Bad Blood music video. Katy herself had said that Taylor started this and it's up to her to end it. Yet after 4 years of shading each other in interviews and relentless bullying from fans and friends, Katy apologized to Taylor first. This is a good example of how Taylor can be easily triggered to the point of no return. Her tunnel vision was strong, and she felt like she needed to sleep with one eye open because she believed at any moment she'd have to defend her kingdom. Her way of dealing with Katy, someone who was her friend at the time, really shows you that she has no mercy or remorse for how she can outcast a person in society. When she tried to do the same with ex-boyfriend Calvin Harris, he literally said, "I know you're off tour and you need someone new to try and bury like Katy, but I'm not that guy. Sorry, I won't allow it." Being called out like that in public was enough bark to get Taylor to back off Calvin completely. And if you're wondering why he called her out, it's because Taylor wanted to secretly be a part of his and Rihanna's song, "This Is What You Came For." While Calvin produced the song, wrote the music, arranged it, and cut the vocals, she wanted to stay anonymous and used a fake name. Randomly, her and her team put it out in the media that she was a part of the song all along, and he didn't want to give her any credit for it. This was after seeing the success of the song. Not sure why they did that, but this is how Taylor operates, and this is how Taylor operated back then. She wasn't as big as she is now, so she was a bit more ruthless with her social media presence, and she knew she can get away with it more then than now. Her sensitivity to any type of criticism is so strong that she has in the past automatically jumped in to reply to any shady tweet or mean thing someone has said about her. Other people's opinions of her have consumed her. In 2015, tensions flared publicly when Nicki Minaj criticized MTV's VMA nominations, and Taylor interpreted Nicki's tweets as a personal attack. After Taylor realized that she had projected her insecurities onto Nicki, she apologized, said she missed her point, and joined her later on stage that night. At this time period, people were annoyed with Taylor and she was seen as a whiny pop star. Covert narcissists have very sensitive egos, and when their ego is threatened, they resort to playing the victim even if they aren't victims of anything. Taylor has had one of the most impressive careers in Hollywood and has always had her parents' judgment, money, and business-savvy personas to help back her up. And yet with all that praise and success, she's the first to portray herself as an attacked victim. And the worst part is that all that self-importance and fragile ego has led her to actually believe she's been wronged and is some sort of victim. While I don't doubt that the industry has been hard on Taylor, I can tell you that her relatability and struggle point is only as deep as a crush not liking her back or a relationship failing. Besides that, it's very hard for people to relate to Taylor on some sort of struggle because she's been privileged all her life. It's why when she released Eldest Daughter on the Showgirl album, people said, "You have no idea how it really feels to be the eldest daughter." We can clearly see this in Taylor's Billboard speech, where I kid you not, she spent her whole speech trying to make everyone feel bad for her because she went through a regular amount of Hollywood hate and criticism.
As a female in this industry, Some people will always have slight reservations about you. I would keep accommodating, overcorrecting in an effort to appease my critics.
Imagine winning an award, standing in front of many people who wish they could be in your shoes, and you've made sure to include in your speech a feel bad for me attempt.
Whether your male producer or co-writer is the reason for your success, or whether it was a savvy record label, it wasn't.
The crowd was visibly turned off by Taylor. Even when she made a joke that was only funny in Taylor land, the crowd was silent.
Okay, here's an entire genre shift and a pop album called 1989. Ah, you heard it? Sick. Oh, I'll take it. Thanks.
You have someone who has been practically untouchable for a decade at this point, winning an award none of your faves will ever see, and yet it still doesn't feel enough. And the thing about Taylor is that she didn't have it harder than some of her peers in Hollywood. One can't help but ask, if Taylor has everything, why isn't that enough? Taylor has wealth, acclaim, and adoration, why does she still want more? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first being legacy motivation. High achievers often orient towards lasting impact rather than momentary gain. Owning the narrative, including control of masters and public reputation, becomes central. The second is scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. If your early life presented success as fragile or conditional, you may operate as if recognition is limited, never guaranteed. That produces relentless striving. The third, perfectionism and standards. The same traits that make someone excel also sustain dissatisfaction. Success raises the bar rather than easing the pressure. And the fourth, identity fusion with achievement. When a person's self-concept is built around accomplishment, letting go feels like losing self.
I had that praise of, Taylor, you're doing a good job at your work. Like those pats on the head were all I lived for.
Rewarding loyalty, the system behind Taylor Swift's success. One thing I want to point out about Taylor is that she knows how to be successful, and she knows that success doesn't just come from her being hardworking, it comes from the people around her and her fans. Part of Taylor's dominance in the industry is being loyal and having loyalty. Back in 2014, Taylor invited hundreds of fans into her house for a secret hangout where they got to bake cookies and dance to the unreleased 1989 album. No one from her peers in 2014, 6 years into their career, cared to do something like that. Your fave celebrity 6 years into their career has already fought with fans and paparazzi alike. They didn't have the grit or personality needed to invite fans into their homes years after they already hit it big to throw them an intimate party where they got to eat their cookies and listen to their album a month before it came out. But for Taylor, loyalty and being involved with fans is fun. It's part of the process she loves so much. And she didn't just do it once, it was something called 1989 Secret Sessions, where over the past few weeks, she would invite fans to her various homes across the world, and carefully selected fans were told they were attending some sort of secret event with no knowledge of what was in store for them. Can you imagine the type of loyalty you'll have to a celebrity who decided to open up their home for you, not once, not twice, but several times across the world? Sometimes I can't even be mad at her greed because no one else is doing it like her. Let's also talk about how Taylor gives back to her team more than the average celebrity. Back in 2016, when I'd write about Taylor, I was told by a few sources that she used to do this thing called Bonus Day, where she would make an at-home basket filled with gifts and money to give to her team during the holidays. So it's nice to see that that's a tradition she keeps doing, and she changed lives once again by giving her team and staff a total of $197 million on the Eras Tour. She literally changed lives by giving truck drivers for the tour a bonus of $100,000 each and giving her dancers a bonus of $750,000 each. The Eras Tour documentary on Disney Plus shows Taylor handwriting personal notes to all of them and changing their lives by basically giving them her pocket change. Taylor gives back, and like a boomerang, the universe returns back the favor. Although Taylor could do more with her power and influence to help others who aren't directly linked to her, the fact that she even gave out almost $200 million is remarkable enough on its own. The Eras Tour was a worldwide phenomenon, so the bonuses were out of this world, but it's refreshing to say that Bonus Day is something she's done in the past, especially during the holidays. Taylor rewards loyalty and values it. It's something we can see from her friendships and relationships. It's also why in Father Figure she says, they don't make loyalty like they used to. Love as proof, Taylor Swift's attachment patterns. Romantic love has always been central to Taylor Swift's storytelling, but beneath the melodies and metaphors lies a consistent psychological theme, a longing not just for love itself, but for reassurance, a pattern that psychologists describe as anxious preoccupied attachment. Anxious preoccupied attachment is often marked by high sensitivity to rejection, fear of abandonment, and an ongoing search for validation.
This was the decade when I became a mirror for my detractors. Whatever they decided I couldn't do is exactly what I did. I decided I would be what they said I couldn't be.
John Bowlby's attachment theory proposes that the emotional bonds formed in early life shape how we connect in adulthood. For someone raised in an environment where approval was linked to performance, affection and relationships can feel conditional, something to be earned, not assumed. With Taylor, I also feel that having her walls up and not trusting people was always echoed to her by her parents, who understood how tough the business world is, so they constantly told her she couldn't fully trust friends, colleagues, or romantic partners. This is just a theory I have after evaluating her relationship with her parents, as to why I feel like Taylor has her walls up more than the average person.
That's just in my opinion.
In Anti-Hero, we get a version of adult Taylor admitting that she doesn't even like how she functions, and she calls herself a narcissist who's terrified of being used by people who claim to love her, hence the bridge in Anti-Hero being about a daughter-in-law who kills her for the money. This ongoing fear that someone is going to use Taylor and take something from her is a pattern we see all throughout this video. Because we've grown up with Taylor, we can trace the mindset she's had from 15 to 35 just by listening to her lyrics and watching how she's responding to things over the years. Taylor's lyrics show a pattern of emotional comparison, whether it's with her partners and their past or with herself and other stars in Hollywood. In You Belong With Me, she sings, "She wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts, she's cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers." She sings, "I'll bet she's beautiful, that girl he talks about." In Invisible, she says, "But you can't see me wanting you the way you want her, but you are everything to me." Taylor has long sought the pursuit of security from her romantic partners. In White Horse, Taylor sings, "I'm not a princess, this isn't a fairy tale," as she's the anxious lover realizing that idealized security might never arrive. Psychologists note that anxious partners often oscillate between idealization and despair, a pattern clearly visible across her early catalog. Taylor's fear of abandonment and high sensitivity to rejection is also a theme we see play out in many of her lyrics. There are moments where Taylor fears loss before it even happens. In The Archer, Taylor sings, "Who could ever love me, darling, but who could stay?" She's defensive yet scared at the same time. She fears abandonment while doubting her own ability to keep love. In Tolerated, Taylor sings, "I made you my temple, my mural, my sky. Now I'm begging for footnotes in the story of your life." One of her most detailed depictions of rejection sensitivity, it's about emotional neglect, the anxious partner's silent suffering when love feels unreciprocated. Usually with high sensitivity to rejection comes an overwhelming amount of self-blame. In songs like All Too Well, Taylor sings, "Maybe we got lost in translation, maybe I asked for too much." Classic anxious thought process is, if something went wrong, I might have caused it. This lyric internalizes rejection instead of distributing responsibility. There's honestly so much we can dive into when it comes to Taylor's lyrics because she seems to have a detailed description of every single situation on Earth. Common themes I've noticed from Taylor's lyrics as a whole are hypervigilance to signs of abandonment, ruminative self-blame after perceived rejection, romantic idealization as a defense against insecurity, and cycles of closeness and retreat mirroring the anxious avoidant trap. But for Taylor, emotional pain and hurt are also an inspiration, hence why she recently admitted that she was scared that being in a happy relationship with Travis would dry up her creative spark. Taylor's love interest in the public eye. For Taylor, it always seems like her lyrics and her public relationships don't always live in the same world. An inspiration for her music has always been a high-profile relationship, and whether or not that high-profile relationship fits who she's actually singing about is not part of the package deal. Taylor craves external validation, which is why for the longest time, no relationship of hers was ever kept private. Whether it was a real relationship or one made for show to give her lyrics a pretty face to imagine, each album cycle arrived with a corresponding relationship arc. A new love, a heartbreak, a comeback, each offered a fresh chapter to dive into. Psychologically, this pattern reflects what researchers call performative intimacy, the use of openness as both genuine expression and strategic communication. It allowed her to control the story by telling it first. Most of the men Taylor dated weren't really writing songs about her, and if they were, it wasn't extravagantly done in the public eye. This allowed Taylor to control the narrative of her relationships whenever fans attributed a man to an era. Taylor did this so well that I have a belief some men are being credited for songs of hers that had nothing to do with them because Taylor strategically released those albums around the time she was seen with them or had broken up with them. Allowing us to think we know what was going on behind closed doors was something fascinating for the public. But public fascination has a cost. The more fans and the media joined the guessing game, the more her personal life became a stage of its own. When Taylor's attachment system is already tuned to external validation, that spotlight can reinforce the loop that every breakup demands explanation, every lyric demands evidence, every feeling felt should be told, and so on. And so when Taylor came out with the Tortured Poets department, I remember Swifties demanding more of an explanation from her as to why she and Joe broke up. The fact that majority of the album seemed to be about Maddie Healy and not about Joe weirdly got her fans angry. After 6 years of a relationship, they expected the breakup album to document every single thing that went down between them. It was low-key a shock that Taylor didn't do that and was letting go of that external validation, even if it was killing her on the inside, as we've discussed with Antihero. This is not to say Taylor didn't address issues with Joe in her previous albums before the breakup. In Midnight Rain, she said, "He wanted it comfortable, I wanted that pain. He wanted a bride, I was making my own name. Chasing that fame, he stayed the same." This makes me think that Taylor didn't want the low-key lifestyle she must have fed Joe back during COVID. It's also why I think her and Travis fit so well together because they both wanted to chase that fame. But it's also important to note Joe Alwyn's role in Taylor's life. By 2016, Taylor had already dated Joe Jonas, Lucas Till, Taylor Lautner, John Mayer, Jake Gyllenhaal, Connor Kennedy, Harry Styles, Calvin Harris, and Tom Hiddleston. Most of these men had a certain era attributed to them, whether it was a relationship lasting a few weeks, a few months, or even a year. Fans filled in the missing context of Taylor's relationship with a song or two, giving them a detailed explanation for the breakup. This strategic way of connecting a person's experience with a public figure backfired on Taylor. People started to learn more about PR relationships and savvy business moves, and started to question why Taylor's relationships never last more than a year, which is the unofficial, official timestamp of a fake relationship. Taylor, at this moment, is low-key addicted to external validation and winning, so the whole world closing in on her strategic love affairs got her in a panic. That plus the fact that she had that whole issue with Kanye West in the phone call. People were so annoyed at Taylor's lack of authenticity and constant need to win that they trended "Taylor Swift is over," basically celebrating her downfall. Now, when Kanye and Kim released the phone call, certain clips were not posted, and Taylor's main issue with Kanye was the fact that he did not get her permission to refer to her as bitch. That and the fact that he recorded her without knowing, but her main issue was the word. Yet here's where Taylor's hypocrisy comes in, because in the life of a showgirl, she's referring to other women as bitches, not caring who her fans tie the story to. Taylor, who often attributes praise to self-worth, panicked at the idea of being called out for all her short-term relationships, and debuted one with Joe Alwyn. Call it growth, call it trying to be unpredictable, call it a new era. The point is, Joe was different from all of Taylor's previous relationships because that relationship was primarily private. So private that we have more information and content of Taylor and Travis in the span of 2 years, more than we ever did with Joe and Taylor in the span of 6 years. Now some of you can say, oh, but Joe wanted to keep things private, and he was the one insisting on that, not Taylor. And to that I say, Taylor outgrew the privacy. At first she was on board, terrified after being cancelled, and hid for a year, as she says. But Taylor makes sure that whatever cards she's being dealt work in her favor. Joe, plus folklore, plus the Evermore era, gave Taylor a new sophisticated and respected outlook. Taylor could have easily vanished into Katy Perry's world as someone who used to dominate the charts and was a household name, and now can't even get a single hit. These two had a very similar career pathway. That's why Taylor was so triggered in 2014 when she thought Katy was trying to sabotage her, and Katy literally said Taylor misunderstood the whole thing. After Taylor's album Lover flopped in comparison to 1989, plus the whole Kanye scandal, plus the Scooter Braun Masters feud, she realized, oh, I need to change something or else I'm going to wither away like the rest of them. Taylor knew her personality was bothering a lot of people, even those in the industry. The Eras Tour and the re-recording of the albums gave Taylor that push to be the #1 celebrity while being very well liked. Her bringing back her old albums tugged on the nostalgic train that made people re-fall in love with Taylor. And let's not rewrite history here. After Taylor's feud with Scooter Braun, she faced a noticeable wave of backlash. Over time, that frustration faded, partly because time softens public opinion, and partly because she leaned into nostalgia by re-recording her old albums. Those re-releases didn't just reframe the narrative, they bought her time to develop new material while allowing her to put out far more content than most of her peers. The general public saw Taylor for what she was, a calculative, trigger chart-obsessed monopoly. And when she went quiet because of COVID and released Evermore and Folklore, with the benefit of a private relationship with Joe that seemed wholesome and genuine, people started to cheer for her again. Joe made Taylor look sophisticated and smart. Her fans might deny this now, but what Joe stood for and his values gave Taylor values to worry about as well. So when she debuted her relationship with the opposite of Joe, Travis, a lot of fans took that as a personal attack. That precious and smart Taylor Swift would never give dumb footballer a chance. Which is not entirely true, and this is where Taylor's psychology becomes more apparent. Her relationships have never existed in isolation, they've always been deeply integrated into how her fans and the public experience her work. Who she dates, who she aligns with, and who she distances herself from all become extensions of her narrative. They don't just inspire songs, they shape eras, influence perception, and reinforce the emotional bond between Taylor and her audience. At the core of it all is someone who understands attention, loyalty, and storytelling better than almost anyone in modern pop culture. Taylor's drive, sensitivity, competitiveness, and generosity coexist in a delicate balance. One that has allowed her to remain culturally dominant for nearly 2 decades. Whether those behaviors stem from fear of fading, a need for control, or simply an unmatched work ethic, they reveal a truth that feels unavoidable. Taylor Swift isn't just reacting to fame, she's actively managing it. And maybe that's why she continues to fascinate people. Because when you grow up alongside someone, watching them evolve in real time, the line between artist, brand, and person becomes almost impossible to separate. Taylor Swift doesn't just make music, she creates meaning, loyalty, and reflection. And in doing so, she's built a legacy that's as psychologically complex as it is successful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the deep dive into the psychology of Taylor Swift. Let me know down below your comments. I want to hear you guys' thoughts about everything. What have I missed in this video that also relates to what we're saying? Tell me if you learned anything new. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll see you next time.